Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd. So in this video I will talk about the worst case scenario, the worst thing they could possibly do to annoy all the fans. So the show will start with someone giving a captain's log and telling about recent events in the Federation, and they will tell us something about the Federation is breaking apart, breaking up. And then the log ends prematurely because the ship is under attack. We see some unknown officers on a bridge of an unknown ship, and we see a huge Borg cube arriving and ramming this starship and totally destroying it. Then the scene cuts to Starfleet Academy. They show us cadets and they're kind of teasing. We expect to see maybe Picard is in the academy, maybe he's a teacher there, or maybe he's the headmaster of the academy. But no, we never see Picard. Instead we see the new main characters who are all cadets, and the main one is a female cadet who just joined Starfleet yesterday. This is her first day in the academy, and she's talking with other cadets, and suddenly they hear the Federation news on a huge holographic display above the academy, and they hear that there's a new Borg attack against the Federation, and that Starfleet is recruiting all cadets to go into action immediately, and so they all go on starships and head out in space to fight against the Borg. Then we see thousands of Federation ships gathering into a huge fleet, which is led by Admiral Riker, and then we hear him making a little speech, kind of preparing everyone for the attack against the Borg cube. Then we see an action scene and most of the Federation ships are destroyed, and we focus on that one ship with the female cadet, and then most of the bridge crew dies, and she takes command of the ship and is able to pilot the ship so skillfully that it avoids the Borg attack. And then she flies in between two Borg cubes and manages to confuse them into colliding with each other, and that's how she saves the Federation, because both cubes got destroyed by each other's fire thanks to this female cadet. And then we see her getting a medal from Admiral Riker, who is so impressed by her that he gives her command of her own starship right away, since they need new captains because most of the fleet was destroyed by the Borg, and so this cadet is immediately promoted to captain on her first day thanks to Admiral Riker. And this ceremony is taking place on Riker's command ship, and then some Borg drones show up because apparently they beamed over during the battle, and then one of the Borg drones stabs Admiral Riker, and then Riker heroically shoots his phaser at the window and sucks himself out of the window, and he dies. So that's the last time we see Riker. And then the Borg take over all the ships that they beamed into, and they assimilate them, and then that female cadet who is now a captain, she makes a saucer separation and she takes the drive section and flies away, and she's the only ship which survived this whole assimilation process by the Borg, and most of Starfleet is now overrun by the Borg. And she also rescued a few sidekicks that we saw earlier in the academy with her, and these include some black guys, some Asian guys, women and gay men. There is not a single straight white man on the entire crew, but it makes sense because the Borg only assimilated all the white men, and so all the Borg are now white men, and this crew of Starfleet refugees are everybody else. So she takes the drive section and flies away far into space to escape the Borg, and she even invents a new cloaking technology which makes the ship invisible, and that's why the Borg spare them. Then this new bridge crew have a debate around a table what to do to save the Federation, and then they have no ideas, and then the female captain suggests maybe we should find Captain Picard, because he's the only one who knows how to fight the Borg, he's the only one who defeated them in the past, so he'll know what to do. And then they decide to search for Picard. And that's the end of the first episode. Picard is never seen. Then in the next 5 episodes they still only talk about Picard. We never actually get to see Picard, but everybody talks about him all the time, and they go from planet to planet searching for Picard because apparently he vanished a few years ago. He gave up on Starfleet and the Federation and went into hiding for some reason a few years earlier, and so they are looking for him across the galaxy. Meanwhile they hear reports about the Borg assimilating Federation planets one after the other, and they are only a small ship, so their only hope is to find Picard so he can help them. And then for a few episodes they search for him around the galaxy, and they have all kinds of boring adventures, and they keep talking about Picard all the time but never showing him. And only in the very end of season 1, in the last scene, they finally find Picard on some desert planet digging in the dirt, looking for some archaeological artifacts, and then the female captain, who was a cadet just a few days ago, approaches him and gives him his phaser, and then he looks at her with disgust, and then we cut to black and to be continued. And then in season 2 Picard takes the phaser and throws it away and says that he's done with Starfleet. He says it's time for the Federation to end, and he says that the legacy of Starfleet is failure. And we see that he's kind of a depressed, senile old man, and he lives in the desert, and he drinks yellow milk from alien camels, and that's how he survives. So this female cadet captain keeps following him around the planet, trying to convince him to come back to save the Federation, but he keeps telling her it's time for the Federation to end. And then she tries to understand what happened to him to turn him into this bitter old man who seems kind of senile, and why is he so depressed, why did he give up all hope. And eventually he tells her what happened to his life that made him that way, and he tells her how his nephew and brother died in a fire. And then later we see a flashback of what actually happened, and we see that Picard visited them, and then he tried to fix their lamp, and he redesigned that lamp thinking it would be safer that way in case of an earthquake. And after that he left, and then that lamp fell down and caused a fire which killed his nephew and brother, and that made him extremely depressed and violent, and also because of his Borg trauma. And then he wanted to take a vacation on the Baku planet, but when he went there he saw that the planet was destroyed because someone wanted to take those rejuvenating particles from the rings of the planet, but that caused the destruction of all life on the planet. And then Picard feels guilty because he's the one who made those people stay on that planet, and now because of him they're all dead and the planet is destroyed, so he feels responsible. And then he comes back to the Enterprise and sees that the Enterprise E was destroyed in a battle while he wasn't there, and so he feels even more responsible, and he decided to embrace his old archaeology hobby, and so he became an archaeologist, and he's just traveling the galaxy trying to solve some mystery about the origin of life. He once heard that recording of that hologram of the ancient humanoid species, so he wants to learn more about them, and so he's digging on planets all around the galaxy for that. And he doesn't care about the Federation anymore because it's not what it used to be. They can reveal that the Federation became capitalist again, that they're using money, and Picard hates that, and so that's why he hates the Federation now. And this young cadet asks him to at least help her defeat the Borg. And then he agrees to give her 3 lessons to teach her everything he knows about the Borg. But right after the first lesson she realizes that she doesn't need him because she's smarter than him already, she knows more than him, and he's totally useless, so she leaves him on the planet and just takes off and flies back to the Federation. Then Picard has a vision from the spirit of James T. Kirk, played by Shatner, who tells him, why didn't you listen to my advice? I told you never to leave the captain's seat because while you're there you can make a difference, something like that. So he has that kind of vision of Shatner, of James T. Kirk, maybe because part of him is still in the Nexus and part of Picard is also still in the Nexus, and that's how he's able to talk with the spirit of Kirk. Picard suddenly decides to come back to the Federation, and so in the end of season 2, all of that took place during the whole season, by the way. So in the end of season 2, we see Picard finally shows up to defeat the Borg, and the Borg cubes get scared to see Picard and they all run away. And after that it's revealed that Picard is actually a holographic projection, and the real Picard is still on that planet projecting himself, but then he decides to come back for real, and they send a ship to get him, but then he dies in a transporter accident and he's dead. And then they have a funeral for Picard, and then the new female cadet captain discovers that she was actually the secret daughter of Picard because he actually had sex with Vash one time, and Vash gave birth and gave it to adoption, and the girl is this woman that is the star of the show, and so she changes her last name to Picard. Maybe her first name can be Jean, so she's now called Jean Picard, and the rest of the Picard show will be about her because she's the Picard of the show, and she's much better than him in every way, and she's the one who did most of the work to defend the Federation against the Borg. And so the show will continue with her as the leader of the show, and Picard is dead because he died in a transporter malfunction, and no one cares. And throughout the show, if any of the other TNG characters show up, they all die in some way, and so none of them survive by the end of the show, and it's only brand new characters with the female as the lead. And so that's how this season would end, and the show would continue with Jean Picard as the head of Starfleet, and that's it. So this was obviously the worst case scenario of what might happen, and it's kind of a poke at The Last Jedi and Discovery and all those new shows. So this was my worst case scenario of what might happen with this show. So let me know what you think, and in my next videos I will give you storylines and ideas that I actually would like to see in the show for real, and so that will be in my next videos. So I hope you find this interesting and funny. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and we can discuss it in the comment section. And if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, please click the like button, click the notification bell if you don't want to miss my videos, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.